Hey guys, Brian delivers you the goods here. I just thought I'd return to you this almost evening time now. I'm sorry that I didn't get around to any reviews most of the day. I've just been so busy with running errands and doing other things, etc. So I'm returning to you for Ed Sheeran's new album, Play, that I got a chance to listen to for the 13 tracks of this almost 45-minute record. So I'm going to discuss what I listened to for the 13 tracks on this almost 45-minute album and let you know my thoughts on Ed Sheeran's follow-up to his last record. So let's dive into this album review. Now it starts with Opening, which is a mediocre track. The way it's mixed and how he raps in this track, I'm just not vibing with too much. But I think it's overall mediocre because of his singing for the first part of the track. So it's a 3.75 out of 5. Sapphire is an okay song for how it sounds. I think for the execution of this track, it was okay. The beat is alright, but it just doesn't really save the track from really being a very good song. But it's in the okay range, so 3.25 out of 5. Ed Sheeran singing along with the melody structure is alright. Azizum is a okay track too. I'd give it a 3.25 out of 5. I'm not a huge fan of this track, but I don't necessarily hate it. I think it's just okay, in my opinion. So, yeah, another 3.25 out of 5 for the third song on the record. I believe this was the first single for the record, but it overall did alright. Old Phone is a decent song. At least this one's a little bit better than the first three tracks, but it's not like the best thing I've heard. Some of the lyrics in here kind of throw me off a little in a cringy way, but not to the extent where I necessarily hate this song. It's just fairly decent, 4 out of 5. Symmetry is an okay track too. The beat kind of throws me off a little. It just doesn't resemble anything that I care for, but I think is okay, in my opinion. 3.25 out of 5. Camera is another decent song, in my opinion. I think the way Ed Sheeran sings it is alright, but the beat kind of doesn't really have an impact on me to actually love this track, but I know he made a music video for this, and overall the song is pretty nice for the lyrical content and aspect of the track, but in execution wise, it's decent at best, 4 out of 5. In Other Words is a mediocre track. It's going to get a 3.75 out of 5 for this one. I dig it, but I don't necessarily like it to an extent. There's some moments where the track kind of squanders with the execution of the melody and how Ed Sheeran sings it from time to time. So 3.75 out of 5. Sorry, I'm just yawning for some odd reason. I don't know why. A Little More is a mediocre track too. I don't necessarily hate this track. I just think with the execution, this track could have been a little better for how it sounded. So 3.75 out of 5 for A Little More. There is a music video with Rupert Grint in it as well, but it overall executed in a fairly mediocre way for the melody structure and overall Ed Sheeran's singing and I guess rapping in this wasn't really my cup of tea. Then we get to Slowly, which actually brings the record up to a better standard. So it's a 4.5 out of 5 for this track. I think with the execution and overall how Ed Sheeran sings this, it's nice with the guitar work, the acoustic guitar work, and just the way Ed Sheeran's singing this song did fairly well. So, and the structure of the melody sounded pretty nice. So 4.5 out of 5. Don't Look Down is probably my favorite track on this record. I do dig the overall vibe to the melody and how it sounds structurally, and Ed Sheeran singing in this is pretty good. So I'd give this a 4.75 out of 5. This track really had me when the chorus was kicking in, and it sounded pretty strong. So I really dug this overall track. 4.75 out of 5. The Vow is a good song in its own way. The acoustic guitar work makes it sound nice, and just Ed Sheeran's singing potential is pretty solid. So it's another 4.5 out of 5 for this one. I do dig it for how it sounds. For Always is a good song too. I do dig this one as the second to last track on the record. It's a good track in its own way. I mean, some of the melody kind of seems a little slow paced, but it overall executes in a way where I can really get on board with it. 4.5 out of 5. And finally, the closing track, Heaven, closes out the record in a solid way. So it's another 4.5 out of 5 for me. Ed Sheeran's singing and the overall beat to it. The overall beat did alright, but it wasn't like the best kind of melody to end the record. But overall, it's not a bad track for how it sounds. So 4.5 out of 5. Overall, production, mixing, and execution wise, I think Ed Sheeran's new record, Play, is actually an okay record. The first half had its moments where there were some songs that did good, some songs that kind of were almost stinkers, meaning they almost sucked. Like, Opening was one that I was unsure about, but it wasn't bad, but it was just mediocre at best. There was a few mediocre tracks, a few okay songs, and yeah, the record will get a okay rating for sure, but in execution wise, it had its moments where it had its hiccups, where the ending is probably the highlight. The ending to the record is the highlight from tracks 9 to 13. Then after that, I think Old Phone and Camera were decent tracks, but everything else from the start of it, getting close to the end, like maybe in the middle to a little over halfway, this record did have its problems, but it wasn't terrible in any way, so it'll be on my OK to Matt albums of 2025 by the end of the year, and if I were to give Ed Sheeran's new record Play a score, I'm giving it a 6.5 out of 10. Okay record, not terrible, but not the best thing I've heard. Most of his releases have been decent or okay at best, but all in the execution. Some of the tracks work, some of the tracks don't. So, yeah, 6.5 out of 10 for Ed Sheeran Play. I hope you enjoyed this album review this evening time, and thank you guys for watching.